Sir, we would like you to tell us how Afenifere evolved and became the mouthpiece of Yoruba people in Nigeria.
Afenifere is a legacy organization of the Yoruba people. And many people who believe in Afenifere are also followers of Chief Obafemi Awolowo and his body of thoughts. And the reason is not so difficult to know. In 1987, after Baba died on May 9, 1987, his leading followers decided that they must continue what they call the Awoist movement. So there were a series of meetings in Ikene. There were a series of meetings in Ibadan. There were a series of meetings in Owo. Ikene was the country home of Chief Awolowo, and his widow, the formidable Mrs. Anna Idowu Awolowo, was also regarded as a top politician in her own right. When Awolowo was in prison, he led the campaign of the Action Group for the 1964 federal election and the 1965 regional election. So she was regarded as a formidable politician in her own right. So she was also part of the leadership after Awolowo died in 1987. But in the end, the leaders decided that the Awoist movement, because of the what was happening in Nigeria at that time, should consolidate within Yoruba land first.
Okay.
The Awoist movement was a national movement. It was not mainly the Yoruba people. There were other people who were also involved. So basically, that was why the group started.
Okay.
Now, out of all these series of meetings, in 1987, Shibola hosted a meeting in Okeado. And the meeting was attended by many, many people, including Chief Ayo Padokun, Chief Bisi Akonde, Chief Ebenezer Abatope, and many others. And it was in Ibadan that they decided that the new Awoist movement should be called Afenifere. To the Awoist people, the word Afenifere was not new. After the Action Group was founded in 1951, there were attempts by different Yoruba groups to translate the word Action Group to Yoruba. And many people call it Egbe Imole. But the people in Lagos and Ibadan were calling it Egbe Afenifere. The Action Group in the 1950s was called by people in Ibadan and Lagos Egbe Afenifere. So Egbe Afenifere was a nickname for the Action Group, but it was not the Action Group. So when the group met in Ibadan in 1987 and decided that they would name it Afenifere, they were only reaching out to history to say that let us give it one of the nicknames that the Action Group was given in those days. But let me say clearly that Egbe Afenifere was not the Action Group.
Okay.
The Action Group was a national political party. It was not an ethnic group, an ethnic organization.
Sure.
And Papa Awolowo, only ethnic organization that he co-founded was Egbe Omo Oduduwa. So they are two different organizations. I will all realize that to consolidate the Yoruba people, you needed Egbe Omoduduwa. But to pursue national political power, you needed a national political party. And that was why the Action Group was founded. And it was spectacularly successful until it suffered from its own success. And then the crisis within the Action Group. So the Afenifere that emerged in 1987, that was not the same thing as the Action Group. They are two distinct organizations. And this distinction is very clear. If Awolowo had founded a group called Afenifere, he would have written about it. Awolowo, as far as his public life was concerned, was very open. He wrote many books, and there were many speeches. There were so many others. There was no speech that you can trace, or any book that you can see, or any meeting presided by Babafemi Awolowo that made mention of Egbe Afenifere. Because it was clear to him that Egbe Afenifere was the nickname given to the Action Group, which was a political party. So the Egbe Afenifere that was founded in 1987 was certainly a Yoruba organization, not a national organization.
Okay, so what happened? When did the cracks start to appear?
Well,
and what led to the cracks?
those of us, the younger ones, we'll be asking that question too. And we may have some answer, but we may not have all the answers.
Okay.
Because most of the protagonists have gone to the back or beyond. But I would say that it was part of the jostling for relevance during the time of Papa Awolowo. You will recall that the first and foremost, the Action Group crisis of 1962 polarized the organization between those who supported Akintola and those who supported Awolowo, and ultimately led to the catastrophe of 1966 when Akintola was killed and the Second Republic collapsed. After that, Chief Awolowo tried to bring back some of the members of the old group, but it never truly succeeded. Many members of the Akintola group never came back to Awolowo's side. So I will call that the first crack. Secondly, the struggle for power in 1979 also led its debris. But the most contentious was the struggle for power in 1983. By 1983, many politicians have seen that if you get the ticket of the successor organization to the Action Group, which was now called the Unity Party of Nigeria, if you get the ticket, the electoral ticket for that organization, you're almost as sure as winning. Therefore, the battle for nomination in 1982-83 was another word for civil war. So that led to also crisis.
You don't want to mention names so that we can drill it down.
I can mention names.
Yes.
You know that in Apekuta here, Shibisi Onabanjo was the governor.
Yes.
But it was challenged by people like Chief Soji Odunjo and some other people. In Oyo State, Shibolage was the governor. And he was challenged by his deputy, Chief Sunday Afolabi, and also by some of his old commissioners, like Elu Obodo, and some other people. In Ondo State, Chief Michael Adirikunle Ajasin was challenged by his deputy, Chief Akeomo Boriowo. In Bender State, Professor Ambrose Ali was also challenged by some other people who are originally lawyers to the UPN because they have seen success and they could not manage that success. That success was to them like the siren of ancient Greek tales. It was leading them into disaster and they didn't know. So I was a reporter in Akure in 1983 and I witnessed some of these things face to face. I remember shortly after I resumed in Akure, I had to attend a meeting in the palace of the Deji of Akure, Oba Adeshida, where he called the warring factions. Major General Adeyinka Adebayo was a leader of the MPN there. Then he spoke in that place and said, I am leader of the MPN, but the MPN is not as important to me as the Yoruba people. As a leading player during the Nigerian Civil War, I am begging all of you politicians to stop the drum of war. But we soldiers, we know the meaning of war. You don't know the meaning of war, we know the meaning of it. I'm begging you now, in the name of Oduduwa, stop the drums of war. That was General Adebayo at that meeting. He was very passionate about it. So, the politicians, of course, were very adamant. And some of them dismissed Adebayo as just a soldier, doesn't know politics. So, on August 13, 1983, August 16, 1983, then after Momboro was declared elected, that's at 7 a.m. that morning, by noon that day, many leading politicians were dead, including Shifola Afagbanigbe, one of a member of the House of Representatives, and one of the leaders of Akure. Honorable Agunbiade, who was originally the majority leader of the House of Assembly, was also killed that morning. Chief Agbayewa, who was a school proprietor and the leader of the NPN, was also killed that morning. So we've seen that the contest for power within the Awais family have been contentious, have been sometimes disastrous and dangerous. And as where we are now, leaders should ponder and see whether there's another way of managing crisis and conflict. Because part of the permanent ingredients of human organization are conflicts and crisis. Those are the things leaders must plan to manage.
Okay, sir. We go back to 87. So what now happened? After 87, what start? How did the crack start? What led to it?
Now, when the leaders tried to form Afenifere in 87, they have been carried over prejudices from the past.
Prejudices.
Yes. In 1983, the Second Republic collapsed, and leaders were put in detention. Chibisi Onabanjo of Ogun State was tried for giving, I think, 1 million naira donation to the Unity Party of Nigeria. Not that he stole 1 million naira. He was tried for giving 1 million naira to the UPN. The money they allegedly collected from Great Nigeria Insurance Company, one of the companies owned by the Odua group of companies. The Odua groups primary owners were the states of the West, also the Southwest. So he was tried by the military regime and jailed for 21 years. So the chairman of Great Nigeria Insurance Company was Sir Olaniwun Ajayi. And some of the people believe that maybe if Sir Olaniwun Ajayi had supported Onabanjo, maybe he wouldn't have faced the crisis he faced. I don't really know. Because I believe that in retrospect, the military were trying to justify their intervention in power.
Call it doggy bad name.
And they were looking for every evidence to nail the politician. Okay, you talk about Shibisi Onabanjo. What of what Shibolai was also tried for the same for that he directed local government chairmen to donate money to the UPA. He directed them. So Shibolai was jailed. Those who really donated money were not were left. What kind of justice is that? The local government chairmen, about 20 of them, were left free. And because the military wanted the big names. There was nothing against Bola Ige, but he was jailed. Now, Chief Adekunle Ajasin was also detained. He was never tried. Because there was only to even try him about. Ajasin was a very meticulous person. So, nothing to even say he donated anything, so they just kept him there. So if the leaders have been more retrospective, if they have been more humorous among themselves, maybe those infighting, those are things that they should understand as class warfare, the military versus the civilian leadership. It shouldn't have caused so much bad blood, but there was bad blood by 1987 between the governors and their group and those who were not governors. So the governors succeeded and ensured that Ajasin emerged as the leader. And this was not a difficult thing to do. Ajasin was a former chairman of Egbe Omodudua. He was a foundation member of the Action Group. Indeed, the Action Group was proclaimed a political party at a meeting in which he hosted in Owo. So he was a very, very dominant person in the Action Group. In the 1952 election, he stepped down that Olowo should go to the House of Chiefs. He wanted to go to the House, but he has to just say the two of them cannot go, say let Olowo go to the House of Chiefs. So he was a leading member of the Action Group. And to show you the reference for which Ajasin was held, when Ajasin and Bola Ige were detained at Ikoyi prison, Bola Ige was the one fetching water for him. Both of them were former governors. So you can understand the reference. Those people had, for which they had Papa Ajasin. Yeah. So it was not difficult to make Ajasin the leader because he was. I mean, he has already earned. He has earned it. There was no doubt about his eminence. So, but there were resentments by some quarters against the governors. In some quarters. So these are things that have poisoned the flow of the rivers of Afenifere, for which part of the manifestation we continue to see in occasional rumpus and also being inherited by those who knew nothing about the origin and who are eager to harvest discontent when they didn't know this discontent was sold.
So let's come to the emergence of Chief Senator Abraham Adesoya now. So, I mean, we've dealt with Baba Jassy. So, after the demise of Baba Jassy, what happened?
As I said earlier, it was not difficult for Papa Jassy to emerge as a leader. And the leadership was meeting in Owo.
Okay.
And they were faced with very serious crisis.
Even then?
No, let me explain this way. I'm talking about the June 12 crisis now.
Oh, okay.
Very, very serious crisis. Not internal crisis this time around. So, so that crisis, the June 12 crisis, galvanized the movement and made it have an assignment. We have an assignment, we have to pursue it under a stable and steady leadership. And you couldn't get a steadier person than Papa Jassy. If there was a collision between Papa Jassy and the rock, most likely to be the rock that will move.
He was that strong.
Yes. So it was not. It was therefore he held the organization solidly together. The person was like his deputy. Was Jonathan Odebi. But when Jonathan Odebi became old and could not attend the meeting, the person was chosen as his deputy was Chief Abraham Adesoya. And Chief Bolage was chairman of what they call the contact committee. Chief Bolage was attending the meeting. Chief Cornelius Adebayo was another governor attending the meeting. Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, the other governor, I decided not to attend the meeting at a certain level. I cannot remember what related to that now. I don't really have that information. Okay. But he had been estranged from his colleagues over certain things. Chief Onabanjo died. And you also know that Governor Ambrose Ali also died. So Senator Adesoya was like the deputy of Papa Jassy. Now we, the younger elements, we founded a group called Idile Oodua, in which I was privileged to be the chairman. And we were in constant touch with Baba Jassy.
Okay.
We were doing what we can call the more active work of Afenifere. And therefore, we were ready to carry out the assignments. So when Papa Jassy died, some of us felt Bolage should become the leader.
Okay.
He appeared to be more active. So then myself and my colleagues, I think Engineer Bayo Adeneko, I'm not too sure now whether our father, the Orogun of Okela, followed us.
Okay.
That's the Prince Adedokun Abolari, now Kabiyesi Oba Adedokun Abolari. We went to see Bolage in his office in Victoria Island and told him that we want you to become the leader of Afenifere. We believe that you'll be more active than Senator Adesoya. Then he said no, he will not do it. Then we asked him why. He said yes, he would like to be leader of Afenifere. But if Senator Adesoya is interested in that assignment, then I cannot spare with him. I will not do it. Because Senator Adesoya is an honorable man. And you cannot get a more loyal person to the idea of Obafemi Awolowo than Senator Abraham at the soil. So all those people who have been clamoring that Bola Ige should become a leader, when they got to the meeting, and Bola Ige rose up to talk, he said, well, I hereby nominate Abraham Adesanya as our leader.
Case closed.
So that was the emergence of Adesanya.
Okay, sir. Can you tell us how Afenifere was able to provide leadership during the turbulent period of June 12 crisis and to the exit of the military from politics in 1999?
Yes, I just told you about Babarinsa. Babarinsa was a very, very courageous person, very tough person. Once he believes in a cause, he will pursue it. I told you I was a reporter in Akure in the territory. Then when the military took over, Babarinsa packed his load from the government house and went to war. Then the friend of his told him, Papa, they are arresting if you are staying in your house. He said, yes, I want them to know where to meet me. So that they will not be looking for me
Anywhere.
I'm waiting for them. So that kind of personality. So when he became leader of Afenifere and this crisis started with the military, nobody thought the June 12 crisis was going to be that way. But don't let me go too far on that, because Chief Abiola was my employer when I was working for Concord. I was quite close to him. So then the June 12 crisis started. When the election was held, we thought everything would go well until the Association of Better Nigeria, headed by Dr. Zeribe, Chidren Zeribe, got the induction to stop it. So, crisis. I remember that I was also close, and I'm still close to Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. And I came to Abeokuta here. I met him in Ota. Myself and my friend, Dele Omotunde, we went to Ota to meet him. Then he was sitting in an angry mood. He said, you people, you are abusing Sorecon. You are encouraging military rule. If the military should come back again, it will be a very difficult thing. And I also understand that Abiola is encouraging them. How can you be a Democrat and be encouraging soldiers to come back? Say you people are very useless. You don't know what you are doing. But we thought we were not in support of Soneco. And we wanted the military out. So our Gatus, we believe that MK Abiola was also collaborating to ensure that the military will come back so that they can hand over power to him. So the military came back. And the Afenifere meeting in Lagos under the leadership of Chief Afenifere Wane believed that the military will hand over power. But there should be a government that will serve for a short period. So they nominated people to join the military government. They nominated... No. They nominated Shibebinisa Abato. Mrs. Oshomo was nominated by them. Ulono Guru was nominated by them. I'm not too sure about Alex Ibu. Jakonde was nominated by Chief MK Abiola himself. So these were things that made that enstrained relationship between some of us and Chief Obasanjo, who believed that it was a serious thing for anybody to support the coming back of the military. He thought it was he regarded it as something almost
an anathema.
Yes, that if you call yourself a Democrat, like Abiola was claiming, how can you now be collaborating with a military regime. So from that point, it was clear that Obasanjo was in a coalition cause with the Abacha regime.
But funny enough,
yes,
it's the same Baba now that's asking for an interim government again. Is he not encouraging?
I'm only telling the history. I don't want to go into all those things.
because you will be. Now. So have politicians learned anything? No, very quickly.
Don't let us go into all that.
Okay.
Let me trace this history of how we responded to the June 12 crisis.
Yes.
So you can see that we started on that thing was not clear. It was not clear to us at all. I'm talking as a reporter, not as
a politician.
No, I'm not a politician. It's true I ventured into politics, but I'm basically a journalist.
Okay.
So, when that thing was going on, because what Papa Ajasin was saying that this new regime, we need a new constitution, we need all these things. There should be a constitutional conference, and the military agreed to have a constitutional conference. So, then suddenly, the military said they would nominate so many people into the constitutional conference. And Ajasin said no. If it is a constitutional conference, your own is to midwife it. Those who are members are not your own problem. But the military insisted. So, in the end, Papa Ajasin said, okay, he would like to meet with General Ladipo Dia, who was chief of general staff, like the vice president of Abacha.
Yes.
So they met General Dia. He and his group met General Dia in Ikeja, in Dia's private house, and told General Dia that your proposal is not acceptable to us. We will not participate in a constitutional conference in where there are unelected members. And Dia said, who are the we? He said, we the Yoruba people. Then Dia answered him that you are not the only Yoruba people. Other Yoruba people will participate. Then Apajasin said, look at us in this room. We are just about 20. If we are not participating, the Yoruba people are not participating. We speak for the Yoruba people here. So, from that point on, no, there was no meeting point between Apajasin and the military regime. So, the constitutional conference was held. It never really, because none of the leaders participated. I remember Shibolagi was elected to go there. Shifalai was elected to be there. Cherubawon from Ede was elected. All of them declined to go. It was only those few people who are military politicians who were there. So that was the struggle that Papa Ajasin led. And he was very, very steadfast about it. General Dia tried to make amend, but it never really worked out very well. For example, he was the one who organized bail for MK Abiola, but the Afenifere people refused that the bail must be without condition, and therefore nothing really came out of it. And as we know, MK Abiola died in military detention. So that was the leadership under Apajasin. But when Apajasin now died, and Abraham Adesanya became the leader, Apamaku, that was a very, very strong character too, especially in times of crisis. In time of crisis, Papa Adesanya was a very, very strong character. He was very, very steadfast and unmindful of personal danger. I remember as an executive director of TEL and also as the leader of Idile Odua, I used to visit him in his office, Simpson Street in Lagos. And he would say, Dari, because these people can come here at any time.
Even then.
So we have to wait for you people to go in case they would like to arrest people or want to kill somebody. They should find us here. So you go early in the morning to his office to wait in case those people may want to come and arrest him, or they may want to come and assassinate him. He doesn't want to be shot on the street. He didn't want that. But incidentally, in the day they were trying to shoot him,
They were not on the street.
he was on the street.
Wow. Wow, this has been so enlightening. And I just want us to look at it that so far that these ethnic, social, political, cultural groups have been in existence, they have now taken us so far from that unity Nigeria has always been shouting about. Because if you look at it today now, what most of these social cultural groups do, like Koanese, Igbo, the Arewa Consultative Forum, and Afenifere, it's more or less they are not even fighting for the Yoruba, the Igbos, or the Hausas again, but more or less fighting for their own agenda. So, what do you have to say to that, sir?
I wouldn't agree with you.
Okay.
And I cannot talk about others. But I know that when Papa Ajasin died, and then Papa Babarinsa took over, and since then, especially after the 2003 election, Afenifere had been dissipated. And that dissipation has led to disunity and has led to other things within the group. It would be wrong to say Afenifere is fighting against Yoruba people or against the interests of Nigeria. Afenifere had been the energy of the past, no longer there. So it is an internal struggle to survive, to redefine itself, and to give itself the purpose that will also be relevant for the future. Afenifere is not fighting against the Yoruba people or the interests of the Yoruba people. No.
Okay. So, what would you say to the current crisis in Afenifere right now?
Yes, as I told you earlier, when Papa Jasin became frail because of age, occasionally Chief Abraham Adesanya will preside over Afenifere meeting in no war. In no war. So when Baba Adesanya became old and Chief Ruben Fashion became acting leader, but the meeting was still being held in Ijebu-Igbo. When Chief Fashion became old, he decided also to make Baba Adebanjo the acting leader. And Baba Adebanjo became the acting leader. Baba Fashion remains the leader. But Baba Adebanjo immediately moved the meeting to his hometown in Obu. So,
Not Akure.
Not Akure. And therefore, not very many people were happy with that. So, many people, if you take note, many of the senior leaders have not been attending the meeting in Obu. Many of the senior leaders have mentioned Chief Olufale has not been attending. I'm not sure whether Governor Cornelius Adebayo has been attending. Many senior leaders have not been attending the meeting in Obu. So there have been a kind of distance within the group. What had this dichotomy. So in recent times, there have been a discussion about what should be the relationship between Afenifere and the emerging political dispensation. The leadership in Ogbo believes that we should go back to what happened in the First Republic, when there was an alliance between the Action Group and the NCNC. And therefore, we should support the candidate of the Labour Party. It's a legitimate thing, but was it properly disclosed? Can a position as fundamental as that be taken without the leader who is still alive in Akure be taken into consideration and confidence? Should it not be discussed with him? Should they not get his buy-in? So you can see that a little bit more of consultation, more of finding out what has been happening would have maybe
staved off
yes, that kind of crisis. So that is what I believe is the origin of what you call crisis. For me, I don't see any much crisis about it.
Okay.
I believe that it's an opportunity for the leadership to rework itself, because if the leadership fail to address this lingering feeling of dissipation, then like some other powerful empires in the past, Afenifere will face slow and steady irrelevance.